Hey everyone, this is Kieran from Eccentric Physio. Today's exercise is looking at the sleeper stretch. It's a stretch to help us get internal rotation back at the shoulder joint. So that's the ability for our arm to come down like this. It may also include some shoulder blade stuff. It just depends on where your restrictions are. But basically, if you're here and it's hard to get your hand down like this or like this into these positions, maybe you get stuck about halfway, you've had a shoulder injury, then this will be a useful exercise for you. So for those that have had shoulder injuries, you might find that you lose a little bit of shoulder flexibility. And sometimes that shoulder flexibility loss is for various reasons. You could have injuries to the muscle, injuries to the tendon. You could have more long-term sort of things to the capsule going on, like a frozen shoulder. And depending on the type of injury you've had and the time frames for healing, that might determine whether the stretch is suitable or if it's going to be effective. Because sometimes you just have to wait something out, or sometimes you have to just let something heal before you start stressing the tissue again. This is a really popular stretch for getting that internal rotation back, and I think part of the reason for that is because it's pretty straightforward and you've got a nice stable environment. The trick for some people can be getting down onto the ground, and sometimes those are people that really need that stretch. So for example, say elderly people with mobility issues, or they're a falls risk. But for those that can do this, then we're going to go over it today, and for those that can't, we've got some other options in our channel. So just to start with, you're just going to lay on your back, and we're going to test some flexibility. So with the shoulder joint, generally you're looking at about 180 degrees of an arc. So if I come this way, let's call that 90, you can go from here to here, and then if I come this way, how far can I get? So I reckon, let's call it maybe about 60, okay? So then it's like, okay, well maybe I've only got 150 degrees, so I'm missing 30 degrees. Could I get more range if that wooden floor wasn't there? And so if I come into here, I can get probably, I don't know, maybe another 15 degrees or so. So all of a sudden that range loss is much different. And it's a good point because we want that 180 degree arc, but for everyone it's going to be different depending on the sports you have and shape of bony anatomy, etc. So for example, like people in throwing sports like baseball, they might have excessive rotation that way into external so that they can cock back and throw the ball, and then they have a limited rotation coming this way so that there's a total of 180 degrees. When we go past that, that's when we get into more hypermobility issues, and those are a sort of a different sort of management situation where we might look at more strength and programs that create tension. For here though, we've got two things to think about. So I've got another 10-15 degrees I'd like to get back. Let's see if we can make that happen quickly. So if you need a pillow, get a pillow. For me, I'm quite happy with my head relaxed here, and I'm going to rotate down as far as I can and then start creating a little bit of overpressure. So the overpressure creates a bit of a stretch sensation, but what I'm interested in is creating some isometric contractions, and that's going to give me a little bit of strength and control at end range and hopefully speed up the process a little bit, but also make it a little bit more cemented as a range. So I've got two options. One is to push up into my hand. That's going to put some tension through the tissue that's lengthening my external rotators. And so I'm at end range, I give it a little bit of a isometric, some people call this PNF stretching, and then I relax, and I can go a bit further. Also though, the internal rotators are almost coming at their shortest. And so I might need to create tension. Maybe they need to learn how to be in their short position. So if I push down with this right arm, trying to avoid like a sneaky shoulder lift, it's a bit of a false rotation. And I push, 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 push. Yeah, about 10 seconds, and then relax. And now can I pull myself further down? And I can. And so I benefited from both of those, but I'm probably going to benefit mostly from doing that internal rotation. Now, you might do sort of 5 to 10 reps of 10-second holds, do a few rounds of that a couple times a week, and over 6 to 12 weeks you're going to get some good range increases. One thing to think about though is if you have rotation loss that is the same on both sides, these stretches are going to give you rotation back, but it might not be the causative factor. And so you need to start looking at things like your thoracic spine, because that's where that shoulder blade sits. You need to look at your ability to protract, so the ability to wrap around like this, that's coupled with internal rotation. And so say for example, thoracic kyphosis, flexion, protraction and internal rotation are all coupled together. So you might have, if you've got a restriction in both arms going into internal rotation, you might have an issue with getting your thoracic spine to flex. You might be really extended and you don't have as much flexibility going this way. And so if that's the case, check out our thoracic flexion videos. If you think you've got a protraction issue, that ability for your shoulder blades to wrap around this way, then we've got some videos for that as well. And you can look up protraction and serratus anterior on our channel. And then if all that's fine, you might need to look at some core stuff. Maybe you need some stability, or not stability in the sense that it has to be rigid, but just a little bit more tension through the tummy and back muscles to allow that thoracic spine the permission to move. If you need that, then I'd be looking at things that are sort of anterior chain dominant, so like a dead bug or some of our crunch options, and that'll allow you to get into that flexion, more tension in here. So a few options to think about, but try and work your way back. And if it's on one side, you'll probably find better or greater changes that are more permanent. And if it's on both sides, look a little bit closer to the spine. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.